And we'll reflect on some bizarre comments surrounding Steven Gerrard and Axel Tuanzebe as the player's agent suggests he wasn't wanted at Villa due to his Manchester United connections. We're going to start at Newcastle, looking to get in at least one player before Saturday's crunch match with Watford after that FA Cup humiliation at the hands of Cambridge. Start with you, Darmish. They need a striker. They need someone who can get on the end of those crosses from Trippier and Sir Maximin and all the rest of it.
Yeah, look, they're trying to get a striker in ahead of that crucial game against Watford this weekend. One contact said that they're after not one but two strikers, one who would be an experienced head and another one that would be seen as one for the future. Now, that one for the future could be the Stade Reims striker, Hugo Ekitike. Now, we're told positive talks have taken place in a deal that could be worth around £30 million. He's a France under-20 international, 8 goals in 17 league games this season. But another contact has just messaged me now, and while there hasn't been a formal bid, the gesturing and the posturing between both clubs, Newcastle have effectively put in some sort of informal proposal about what they'd be prepared to pay. And I think Reims at the moment feel that that would fall short of what they would want. Now, that's not to say that it's off, but Newcastle, as we know, we've been mentioning them so many times during this transfer window, they are looking at other players as well if the Hugo Ekitike transfer doesn't go through. But look, suffice to say, there is an interest. There have been positive talks, but it looks like at the moment, from that one contact, that Newcastle might just have to up what their informal proposal.
And that's going to be the case, isn't it? With every potential Newcastle transfer, everyone knows they've got a pot full of money. Everyone's going to quote what they think they might just possibly get, aren't they?
This is the issue. I mean, Carve was saying earlier on in the window that a lot of clubs in the Premier League, particularly rivals, would not want to sell to Newcastle just to make them stronger, and they might go and stay in the Premier League at their expense. And the same could be said for foreign clubs who are potentially selling a player to Newcastle, and they say, well, this is the richest club in the world now, let's add a zero to the price.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, since you mentioned Carve and Premier League relegation rivals, Chris Wood, there's a lot of very differing views about the value of bringing in Chris Wood, but would it happen? Would Sean Dyche say over my dead body?
Look, as far as Burnley and Sean Dyche are concerned, they do not want to sell any of their players, especially to a relegation rival. I think the only way Chris Wood would leave Burnley and go to Newcastle is if he has a release clause in his contract. If that was the case, then there's nothing Burnley could really do. If the player wants to go to Newcastle and Newcastle pay the release clause, then he would become a Newcastle United player. But as far as Burnley are concerned and as far as Sean Dyche are concerned, you are completely right. They do not want to sell him, and they certainly don't want to sell him to Newcastle.
But they would want him because he would be, looking at his Premier League appearances and his occasional bursts of goal scoring, just the kind of man who gets on the end of those lovely Kieran Trippier crosses. At the moment, they can come in, but no one's going to get on the end of them.
I mean, Newcastle have got a big goal scoring problem. I think they've only scored something like 19 goals in 21 league games. Callum Wilson is out injured. Dwight Gale is out injured as well. They desperately need somebody to come in who can score goals, who can score the goals that can keep them up in the Premier League. Darmish has mentioned some players they're looking at, young players who don't have experience of English football and don't have experience of the Premier League. But with Chris Wood, you would be getting somebody who ticks those boxes. He could come in and do a job straight away.
What about a defender who could come in and do a job straight away? Darmish, you were talking about Sven Botman a lot last week. Lille want lots of money and other people are interested.
Yeah, look, Newcastle's primary target in that position is Sven Botman from Lille, but it looks like it's a very, very tough deal to do. Lille simply do not want to sell, especially in this transfer window. If you look at their season, they're in the Champions League. They've got Chelsea in the round of 16. They're still fighting to finish in a Champions League position this season. Look, with these deals, never say never, because if a huge bid does go in, then I'm sure Lille will be forced to actually consider it, even if their stance at the moment is they don't want to sell. Newcastle have made a couple of bids, not met what Lille would even consider as their valuation for the player. Now, I said last week that the likes of Botman, the likes of the striker Jonathan David, the midfielder Renato Sanchez, it is expected that they will leave Lille, but not necessarily in this transfer window for those reasons that I've said. It will be more reassessed in the summer. But if you look at it from Botman's perspective as well, if he was to go to Newcastle United now, he'd be swapping Champions League for a relegation battle. And if he was to go and Newcastle didn't stay up, then where would that leave him in the Championship? So maybe he might bide his time, wait until the summer, see out this season with Lille, and then see what offers are available to him.
I think as far as Botman is concerned, and what Sky Italy are reporting this evening, is that he will definitely be staying. Exactly what Darmesh has been saying. And obviously Sky Italy are very interested in the story because AC Milan want to sign him as well. And I think as far as Botman is concerned, and what his advisors will be telling him, is you are one of the most highly rated young centre-backs in Europe. The next move you make is going to be very, very important for the rest of your career. And going to somewhere like Newcastle, yes, the wages on offer, you're probably going to get paid 5, 6, 7 times more than you're getting paid at the moment. But you would have to say, if you were one of his advisors, you would be saying it's a risk because you don't know what's going to happen at Newcastle in the next few months. And I'm sure people will be telling him, look, just bide your time. You're in the Champions League. Lille, I think, are playing Chelsea next month. They're doing well in the French league as well. Just bide your time until the summer, because we know we've got interest from Milan. We know clubs, for instance, like Chelsea, will be looking for centre-backs as well in the summer. So maybe, I'm not saying Newcastle aren't a massive club, because they are a massive club, but they're at a different stage when it comes to progress.
Well, let's be brutal. If you look at your ticks and crosses in your box, there's a lot of crosses that...
Yeah, and somebody like Sven Botman can wait till the summer. Yeah. He can wait till the summer, and AC Milan will come in for him. Other big Champions League clubs will come in for him. So it's a really... I know he's listened to what Newcastle have to say, and at one point it looked like he was open to moving to Newcastle, but I think people close to him are telling him, look, just be careful, maybe it's better for you if you wait until the summer.
Yeah, maybe seeing them knocked out of the FA Cup by Cambridge doesn't help make Newcastle any more attractive. Let's talk about another club who almost had an FA Cup embarrassment, a late 3-1 win over Morecambe yesterday. So Darmesh, Tanguy, Ndombele, what's next for him? Because it didn't look clever when he came off yesterday.
It didn't, and if Tottenham have their way, I think they would like to release Ndombele in this transfer window. We're told today Tottenham have actually held talks about a potential departure for the player in this transfer window. Clubs in Spain and Italy looked at as potential destinations for Ndombele. Significantly, these talks are understood to have taken place before that incident against Morecambe at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium yesterday, when we saw Ndombele being booed by a section of the Tottenham Hotspur fans. There is a stumbling block, though. He's got 3.5 years left on his contract, which would make it quite difficult for all parties to do a permanent deal, simply because of the figures that would be involved. If you look from Ndombele's perspective, he's not unhappy at Tottenham, but it is something that he'd have to consider given Tottenham's stance on his situation. It's just not worked out for him. If you look back, it was a lot of fanfare when he joined, wasn't there? July 2019.
Record signing.
£63 million, club record signing, still is the club record signing. 46 Premier League starts in 2.5 seasons. Not the best return. Also, he has played under 4 permanent managers and a caretaker manager as well in Ryan Mason, of course, Pochettino, Jose Mourinho, Nuno Espirito Santo, and now Antonio Conte. But the signs were there in that news conference at the end of December, when Antonio Conte was asked a question about Harry Winks and he was asked a question about Ndombele. What do their futures hold? Harry Winks, very positive about him. Yes, he's playing well, we want him to stay. Ndombele, we're going to have to discuss this with the club. Not a big confidence boost for him, I don't think.
And as Tottenham look to bring in one or more this window, Adama Traore, who we'll come to.
I was just going to interrupt you because...
Please do. I do it to you all the time.
Yeah, there is another big, interesting Spurs story this evening that was broken by Mike Verwey, who's the Ajax correspondent for the Dutch newspaper De Telegraaf. and he's the Ajax expert. He goes to every Ajax game, home and away. And he's reporting this evening that Ajax have made a bid of £15 million, 18 million euros for Steven Bergwijn, the Spurs forward, who I think Spurs signed, what was it, about 2 years ago for £25 million. Now, apparently that bid has been rejected by Tottenham, and Ajax are considering whether to put in an increased offer. So it appears that this evening there are talks going on between the two clubs, which could see Steven Bergwijn moving to Ajax. And of course, if he does move to Ajax, then Spurs have more money to spend on players, for instance, Adama Traore, who we know they're interested in.
And the point about Traore is how is that in any way close? Do we know?
No, look, we know that Tottenham do want to sign Adama Traore, and the fact of the matter is that he's only got 18 months left on his contract, and there's a contract from Wolves that's been sitting there for 15 months unsigned. So if Wolves are going to sell him, this window would be the optimum time to get the most amount of money. And if you're looking at around £20 million, it's probably a good price for a player of his profile and of his age, particularly given Tottenham would want that as a priority position. Remember, they're looking for a striker and a right-sided wing-back, and they probably think Adama Traore would fit that bill with regard to the right-sided wing-back. But Wolves don't want to let him go. But having said that, will they have a choice? Because the longer it goes, if it goes into the summer, the price comes down, and then foreign clubs start getting involved because he knows he's only 6 months away from signing a pre-contract agreement.
OK, and you can argue that he can. They say they want a striker and a wing back. You can argue he can do both. If maybe yeah. He's played as an emergency striker and as certainly coming off the bench. Let's talk a bit more about Traore, who potentially could follow Matt Doherty in going from Wolves to Tottenham. Plays in the same sort of position. You've been having a look at it, Peter Smith, our senior football journalist. What can you tell us?
Well, it's an exciting proposition, isn't it, really, for Tottenham fans? We know Traore is one of the most exciting players in the Premier League. Pace, power, skill. It's no surprise that he's one of the top dribblers if you go back to the stats from the start of last season. But with Traore, it's about the end product, isn't it? And it's just not there at the moment. No goals, no assists so far this season. And that's just preventing him from getting to the top level, really. We can see from these stats that he's had 3 real clear-cut chances, 3 one-on-ones that he's wasted. He missed a good chance against Sheffield United in the FA Cup yesterday. And really, it's that element of his game that he needs to add. I think it's 7 goals in 121 Premier League appearances. Frustrating return, really, for a player of his quality. Now, we've been talking there about Tottenham needing a right wing-back. And we know what Antonio Conte did with Victor Moses, don't we, when he was at Chelsea, 2016-17. He took a player not dissimilar to Traore, a very fast forward. And we can see Traore's shot map here, where he's been moved inside by Wolves. 4 shots on target from 21 efforts. So it's not working for him in that area of the pitch. Could it work for him at right wing-back under Antonio Conte? As I was saying, Victor Moses is very similar to Traore. He was very high up the dribbling stats in the Premier League a couple of seasons before Conte took over at Chelsea. And that would be a fascinating change for Traore if he could work in that position for Tottenham.
OK, Peter, thanks very much indeed. You can keep across any developments regarding Traore on the transfer blog on our website and app. And that's the man we're talking about, and potentially an exciting arrival for Tottenham if they could pull it off. And Darmish has told you why it might happen, and Peter's told you what the advantages would be for Tottenham if it did. Let's talk Manchester United for now. Carver, you're tapping away news of the next transfer, but let's talk Edinson Cavani for now. What do we know?
Well, good news for Manchester United supporters is that Ralf Rangnick on Thursday had a meeting with Edinson Cavani, and the situation with Edinson Cavani is that his contract runs out in the summer and he's been linked with a move to Barcelona. But apparently at this meeting, Edinson Cavani himself said to Ralf Rangnick, I want to stay at Manchester United. I'm not going to go anywhere during this window. I will be staying at United until the summer. And Ralf Rangnick has talked about this meeting. He said the meeting lasted about 30 minutes. And he said what was most impressive was that I didn't have to say to him, look, ignore all this interest from other clubs. We need you here at United. He himself, the player himself, came out and said, look, I'm fully committed. I want to stay at Manchester United. And the reason I say that's good news for United supporters is a lot of people would say that when he's fit, Edinson Cavani is by far and away United's best out-and-out striker. Of course, he's had a lot of injury problems, but when he's fit and when he's playing, they look much more dangerous going forward. So he is definitely staying until at least the summer.
He is the only one who is the old-fashioned number nine. He's happy with his back to goal, isn't he?
And he's the target man, and he links up play. And you can tell just from watching him that, you know, he is somebody who knows how to play that role, and he just gives another dimension to Manchester United when he's playing. But of course, the problem has been that he has had mixed fortunes when it comes to injuries.
And as you've seen at the bottom of your screen, very likely he is in the starting lineup, Cavani, against Aston Villa tonight in the FA Cup tour. More about that in just a second. But what about any midfield arrivals this window? Realistic prospect or not?
Well, look, Manchester United, we know, are in the market for a midfielder. They were in the market for a midfielder in the summer. They were looking at players like Saul Niguez, who ended up at Chelsea, players like Eduard Camavinga, who ended up at Real Madrid. But I'm still told that the focus does remain on a summer transfer window. That's when Manchester United like to do their business. There have been exceptions, of course. Bruno Fernandes came in January and turned their season around. So maybe if they can bring someone in of that ilk who can change things around for United, they haven't ruled out bringing someone in during this transfer window. But they've always said, look, when you've got priority positions, and you've got a number of priority positions, it's very difficult to fill all of those in one transfer window. But there's lots of players, as you'd expect, that United are keeping an eye on. We've mentioned Ruben Neves of Wolves before. We've mentioned Marseille's Boubacar Kamara. There's also Monaco's Aurélien Tchouameni. Lots of different reasons why some might be easier to get than others. Neves and Tchouameni, their contracts are until 2024, so they'd probably command a higher transfer fee. Kamara, meanwhile, he's into the final 6 months of his contract. So you can sign a pre-contract agreement with a club outside France in this transfer window. Now, this is all against the backdrop of a certain Paul Pogba. Now, I'm told that his only focus is getting fitter and getting back playing for Manchester United following that injury he had with France. And it was reinforced to me today that there's been no further contract offer for Paul Pogba since the one that was offered to him last summer, which hasn't been accepted or rejected. It's just on the table. There's talk of £500,000 a week contracts. I'm told that that's categorically untrue, but it's increasingly likely that Pogba is likely to make his decision in the summer when he's got everything at his disposal, and also probably when he'll know who the new Manchester United manager is, because as much as people will say, well, this means he's leaving, he's not going to sign a new contract, I think one of the reasons he's holding fire as well, he wants to know who the next permanent manager of Manchester United is, because that contract is still on the table.
Carver, just a word on Axel Tuanzebe, who's a departure this month. Some interesting comments today.
Yeah, this is a very interesting story. His brother, who's also his agent, has come out and spoken about his move. Obviously, he's a Manchester United player. I think he's contracted to Manchester United until at least 2024. But
that was extended, wasn't it, in the summer when he went back to Villa?
And he's been on loan at Villa again, and he was playing quite regularly, but not every game, under Dean Smith. And then Dean Smith obviously left Villa, and he was replaced by Steven Gerrard. And once Steven Gerrard came in, I think Axel Tuanzebe only played something like 10 minutes of football under Steven Gerrard. And obviously he's now moved on loan to Napoli. And his brother, who's also his agent, has come out today and speaking to ESPN, he has kind of suggested that the reason he had to leave Aston Villa was that he wasn't getting any game time under Steven Gerrard because of his Manchester United connection. Now, obviously, everybody knows about Steven Gerrard and Liverpool and the rivalry between Liverpool and Manchester United. So Axel Tuanzebe's brother kind of suggesting that because Axel Tuanzebe is a Manchester United player, Steven Gerrard didn't want to play him. Now, I find that very hard to believe. I don't think Steven Gerrard would ever do that, but that is what Axel Tuanzebe's brother is suggesting. Having said that, there's a good ending to the story because Axel Tuanzebe's got a move to Napoli, and that's a dream move for him. Napoli are trying to win the Italian title for the first time, I think, since Diego Maradona was there. And they're doing very well at the moment. They're third in Serie A. So he's got a fantastic move as well. But I think he needs to have a word with his brother about what his brother thinks Steven Gerrard was up to.
Doesn't sound very much like the professional approach that we know from Steven Gerrard. I did mention to you that we do have the team news, as you've seen at the bottom of your screen. Just to amplify that a bit for you, the FA Cup tie kicking off at 5-8, Manchester United against Aston Villa. No Cristiano Ronaldo in the squad for Ralph Rangnick tonight. He is out with a minor muscle problem, we're told. Rashford, Greenwood, and as I mentioned, Cavani up front. For Villa, no Philip Coutinho just yet, but otherwise they go very strong. Danny Ings and Ollie Watkins up front for Steven Gerrard tonight. And what is in prospect for Villa on the transfer front? Talk about that next.
I'm in.
I'm in.
I'm in.
We're all in to kick it out.
Partnering to end racism in sport.
So I promised you more on Aston Villa. Are they about to bring in a defender, Carve?
They are in talks about signing Lucas Digne from Everton, but I think there are quite a few issues with this deal. The first one is the size of the transfer fee, because obviously he doesn't have a future at Everton. He's told Rafa Benitez he doesn't want to play for the club. Rafa Benitez has said, you're not playing for us if you don't want to be here. But Everton still want at least £25 million for him, which in the current climate for a 28-year-old centre-back who's fallen out with his club is quite a significant fee. So that's one issue. I think the second issue is his salary, because I think he's on quite high wages and he'd want high wages wherever he's moving to. Again, in the current economic climate, I'm not sure how many clubs would be willing to pay the kind of figures that he would be looking for. And I also think that he's quite open to moving abroad as well, and there's quite a couple of big European clubs who are interested in signing him as well. But that doesn't mean that he's not going to go to Aston Villa. Aston Villa are interested in signing him, but as I said, there are a couple of sort of significant factors to take into account before any potential move to Aston Villa would be completed. And again, I would say that Aston Villa, when it comes to doing their transfer business, like all clubs really, they are very, very private. They like to do things in the right way behind closed doors. They don't brief anyone, and they don't particularly like people talking about the players.
And they've been very good at it.
They may be signing, and they do like to hold their cards very close to their chest. But he's a player who is of interest to them, but he's of interest to quite a few clubs.
Chelsea connection, Dharmesh?
Yeah, I mean, you said, Carve says an interest to a number of clubs, and we understood Chelsea, but we're looking at Lucas Digne as well. So it's obvious that they want a left-back. We know that Ben Chilwell is out for a significant period of time with that knee injury, and I'm told today that Chelsea are looking into the possibility of recalling one of their lone left-backs. He's at Coventry City. His name's Ian Maatsen. He started 19 of Coventry's 23 championship games this season. Now, I did get a couple of texts from a couple of worried Coventry City fans who actually work here saying, what's the deal with this? Can Chelsea recall him? Well, I've put the question to somebody who might know, and we're still awaiting confirmation on this, but it's understood that any option is based on Ian Maatsen not playing enough. But judging by the number of games he has played, I think he has played enough. So, still waiting for confirmation on this, of course, but it looks like Chelsea might not be able to recall Ian Maatsen if there is a clause in that loan deal that says if he's played a certain number of games, then you can't recall him.
I'll just talk some more about Lucas Digne in a second, but you wanted to mention Emerson Palmieri in this context.
Yeah, I mean, another option Chelsea are looking at is trying to work out whether it would be possible to get Emerson Palmieri back from Lyon. He joined Lyon in the summer. He's somebody who won the Euros playing at left back for Italy. So you would think that it would make sense for Chelsea to try and see if they can get him back. And I think he would be quite open to the possibility of coming back to Stamford Bridge. But I don't think there is a recall clause in the loan agreement with Lyon. So Chelsea will have to talk to Lyon and try and come to some sort of compromise agreement. I know we're talking a lot about Chelsea maybe going into the market for a left-back because of the injury to Ben Chilwell, but you've got to bear in mind they do still have Marcus Alonso. And of course, at the weekend, you saw the 17-year-old Lewis Hall, who plays at left-back as well, although he can play in midfield. And you all saw how good he was as well. So maybe Thomas Tuchel is more relaxed about the situation than we think. But I do know...
You don't get quite the feeling that he quite trusts Marcus Alonso, do you, defensively?
I don't think he trusts him to play every game between now and the end of the season.
Fantastic going forward.
In the league, the FA Cup, the Champions League as well. So he does need somebody else there, whether that's Lewis Hall or whether he can bring Emerson Palmieri back in, is something that they're definitely exploring. OK, let's, as promised, talk a little bit more about Lucas Digne, who, as the boys have been explaining, may or may not be on the move, depending whether a deal can be done this month. But certainly he would have
plenty to offer, wouldn't he, Peter Smith?
Yeah, he absolutely would, and it'd be a big loss for Everton if they were to lose him. Since he joined the club in 2018, he's created more assists for his teammates than any other player at Everton. He was their top chance creator again last season. And at 28, in his prime, he's now hitting a level where he's producing numbers up there with the best creative fullbacks in the business. Trent Alexander-Arnold, Andrew Robertson, the only players since the start of last season, the only defenders, I should say, who created more clear-cut chances than Lucas Digne so far. So difficult for Everton really to replace that quality of delivery, free kicks, corners, open play.
And if he went to Villa, would he be an upgrade on what they've got?
I think he would, and I think he'd be a good fit for them as well. They're a team who have scored the fourth most goals from crosses, so he strengthens that attribute straight away. And then Matt Targett, who he's obviously going to be competing with at left back, he's respected at Aston Villa. He played every game for them last season in the Premier League. He was a Players' Player of the Season. But if you look at the stats here, Dean just edging him in some of the key metrics for full-backs. And you just feel with players like Lucas Digne coming in, or Philippe Coutinho, these are players who can just help Aston Villa take the next step and move to the next level.
OK, thanks very much indeed. Don't forget, Aston Villa are live for you on Sky Sports this weekend. They play Manchester United again for the second time in a week in Saturday Night Football. That is live for you from 5 p.m. Sky Sports Premier League and Sky Sports main event. And as I was saying, in the first of those two games against United, it's come too early for Philippe Coutinho. But might we see him carve on Saturday?
I think there's a chance, maybe I should say there's an outside chance that he'll be involved against Manchester United on Saturday. The situation is that the good news for Aston Villa supporters is that he's passed his medical. He's not in England yet. He's in France at the moment, just putting the finishing touches to all the paperwork that he needs for his work permit. But he should be flying into England tomorrow. And Steven Gerrard today, I think speaking to the Aston Villa website, said that he would train for the first time with his new teammates on Wednesday. Now, the information we have on Philippe Coutinho's fitness is realistically he's 2 or 3 games away from being 100% fully match fit because he's just recovering from COVID. But having said that, he himself feels very, very strong. He feels perfectly well physically, and he thinks that he can hit the ground running and play very, very quickly. So I think if it was left to Philippe Coutinho, he would be involved against Manchester United on Saturday in the Premier League. But of course, the final decision is with Steven Gerrard.
I'm feeling the phrase impact sub in my head for starters.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things that you could see it written in the next day's newspaper back pages that Coutinho comes on as a substitute and the former Liverpool player scores a free kick from outside the penalty area against Manchester United. Who knows what could happen? But I think as far as the player himself is concerned, he feels that he can certainly play some kind of part at the weekend.
And a quick one on Aaron Ramsey, news of him tonight?
Aaron Ramsey's bad news, actually, as far as he's concerned and as far as Juventus are concerned, because Juventus in the past hour have announced that he's tested positive for COVID and he is isolating. So hopefully he's well. The most important thing, of course, is his health. But it comes against this backdrop of Juventus making it very, very clear. The head coach, Max Allegri, last week in a news conference saying he's on his way out of Juventus. He's on big, big money at Juventus. Juventus want to move him out. There's lots of talks that he could be coming back to the Premier League. And of course, testing positive for COVID, it just complicates a transfer this month just a little bit more.
OK, keep an eye on that. Thanks very much indeed. Coming up, the boys will have news from all 20 Premier League clubs, and we'll discuss the day's big stories with Darius Vassell.
Time now to go around the clubs.
Certainly is. Marseille are in talks with Sead Kolasinac about a free transfer from Arsenal in the summer.
Philippe Coutinho flying to England tomorrow to complete his loan move to Aston Villa. Villa have just announced he's passed his medical. Villa, of course, also in talks for Lucas Digne.
Brentford want Joel Valencia to go on loan for more first-team games. There's tentative interest from the Championship.
Brighton are interested in signing Paraguayan attacker Julio Enciso from Libertad. The 17-year-old plays as a winger and he can also operate as a second striker.
Burnley not interested in selling striker Chris Wood. He's been linked with a move to guess who? Newcastle United.
Chelsea still trying to work on a compromise deal so they can get Emerson Palmieri back from his loan spell at Lyon. The deal had no recall option.
There are currently no plans to cut short Jean-Philippe Mateta's loan. Mateta scored the winner for Crystal Palace against Millwall on Saturday.
Everton are not interested in a swap deal when it comes to Lucas Digne. They want a straight sale wherever he goes.
Leeds United won't loan out defender Cody Drammer unless their injury situation improves.
Leicester City looking for loan signings and they want a centre-back. More problems with injury and illness. Tomorrow's game against Everton has been postponed.
Newcastle interested in signing Liverpool striker Divock Origi. 3 Italian clubs have approached Origi's representatives over a pre-contract agreement this month.
Still all very quiet at Manchester City. They're likely to focus their energies on signing Erling Haaland during the summer.
Edinson Cavani has told Manchester United he wants to stay for the rest of the season. He's out of contract in the summer.
Newcastle desperately trying to sign a striker before Saturday's relegation crunch match at home to Watford. They have held positive talks with Stade Reims over the signing of Hugo Ekitike, and a formal bid is expected to go in soon.
Very good. Todd Cantwell and Max Aarons can leave Norwich City if the price is right. Norwich are aware of interest from Newcastle and other clubs.
Southampton are facing an injury problem at right back, but they're not expected to spend big in this window, despite, of course, having new owners.
Tottenham will consider formal offers for Tanguy Ndombele, Dele Alli and Matt Doherty this month, and also they're in talks with Ajax over the potential sale of Steven Bergwijn.
Danny Rose was not involved for Watford against Leicester on Saturday. He is free to leave Vicarage Road this month.
Aston Villa in talks to sign West Ham United keeper Darren Randolph. David Moyes says the board have told him he has money to spend if he wants to strengthen his squad. Moyes is looking at forward and centre-back options.
And finally, Wolves are interested in the Monaco centre-back Benoit Badiashile. The player is also attracting interest from Newcastle United.
So let's underline that team news that we mentioned a bit earlier in the programme for you for tonight's FA Cup match kicking off at 5-8. Manchester United against Aston Villa. The United team showing 4 changes from the defeat against Wolves a week ago tonight. Victor Lindelof, Diego Darlow, Fred and Marcus Rashford coming in for Aaron Wan-Bissaka, Phil Jones, Nemanja Matic and Cristiano Ronaldo, who's got a minor muscle problem. That's why he's missing out tonight. As for Villa, a couple of changes from the side that lost at Brentford 8 days ago. Tyrone Mings in for Courtney Hawes in central defence, and Ollie Watkins replaces Bertrand Traoré. As we've been hearing, Philippe Coutinho flying to England tomorrow to complete his loan move to Aston Villa. Well, delighted to say that we've been joined by the former Aston Villa striker Darius Vassell, who's going to watch that game for us tonight. Darius, good evening, very welcome. Yeah. We were talking about Lucas Digne just now. Would he be a good signing for Steven Gerrard if they can pull it off?
Yeah, it'd be another great signing. Obviously, they've done some, good work in the transfer market. When fans see players of that calibre coming to the club, it lifts spirits. And certainly looks like Villa are heading in the right direction if they're able to make those sort of signings and continue to do so.
And does it affect potential incomings as well if players are other players that Villa might approach? They say, well, if Lucas Digne's coming in.
Certainly. Obviously, manager-wise, Steven Gerrard is there at the helm now, and he will attract a certain level of player. And then once those players are in through the door, those players will then again attract similar players of similar quality. And that's what Villa fans, myself included, will want to see come on at the club.
Let me bring you in if people are just tuning in. Tanguy Ndombele, that is how he says it. I've listened to him saying it himself. I know you're having a bit of a row with Mike Wedderburn earlier on. Just remind us where we're up to.
Yeah, look, it looks like that Tottenham would like to release Ndombele in this transfer window. It's not gone right for him, has it, to be honest? July 2019, club record fee, close to £63 million that deal was worth. And he's still their club record signing. Only 46 Premier League starts in that time, though. And you just get the impression now that Antonio Conte could be the manager that says, right, enough is enough. He's played under 4 permanent managers, including Conte. He's played under caretaker manager in Ryan Mason, and only in fits and starts have we seen the best of the player. But I think that the telltale sign was, when we were talking earlier, was just that news conference. I keep going back to it, but it was so significant, the way he talked about Harry Winks and the way he talked about Tanguy Ndombele. Really waxing lyrical about Harry Winks, how he'd improved, and he was linked to a move away, but he said no, he stays, he's playing well. Whereas when he talked about Ndombele, not so forthcoming about his future at Tottenham.
What do you make of that, Gerard, as a player kind of trudging off? And you know what you're doing, don't you?
Yeah, of course, definitely know what you're doing. I can understand the manager's comments. I think that for that amount of time and that amount of money, and the manager wanting to take the club forward, he's going to want to get rid of, players that are giving off that sort of energy as soon as possible. We have seen, Ndombele perform in fits and starts. He has got ability, but he certainly hasn't been consistent enough for the likes of the club that he's playing for right now.
You've got personal sorry, David.
Yeah,
have you got any personal experience of being booed off, or seeing a teammate or a friend being booed off, or feeling that you want to trudge off slowly?
Yeah, certainly not to that extent, I would say. Obviously, when you're talking that amount of money, it makes the boos a bit louder. Luckily enough for me, I suppose, I was never transferred for those kind of figures, so I was always considered a bit of a bargain either way. But I think for Ndombele, being a record signing at a club so big, the expectations are really high and up there, and he certainly hasn't fulfilled them yet.
What can it do to the dressing room when something like that happens, though?
It's an energy, I call it. I think it's an energy. I think it will drag players down. Players will feel for him, feel sorry for him, they'll want to help him. But when it's gone on season after season after season, it's only right that the player, goes somewhere else and goes and shows everybody what he's capable of.
OK, thanks very much indeed. More from Darius coming up. Also the latest on Fiorentina's Dusan Vlahovic and Arsenal's search for a striker on the Transfer Show. This is the Transfer Show with Kaveh Solikol, Thomas Sheth and now Darius Vassell. Wasn't here when we were talking earlier on about Paul Pogba. Damish was bringing us up to speed and saying, think the decision we made in the summer, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's leaving just because we're not seeing anything now. What do you make of Paul Pogba's situation? Seems to go on and on and on every season.
Yeah, it seems like we talk about it, every season, as you said. It's difficult, isn't it? I think I'm with everybody else. The common consensus is he's a great player. Why is he not performing to that standard at Man United? Would he be better off going somewhere else and continuing his career and getting the highlights that he's supposed to get from his career at a club that are going to, embrace him and that he's going to be able to embrace himself?
Do you think United could do more than they have to make him feel wanted?
No, I don't think they can do any more. I mean, United are United first and foremost, one of the best or biggest clubs in the world. A player of that stature, you expect him to go there and perform. Something's obviously not right there. Call it chemistry, call it what you want. But sometimes these young players, they need to just move on and go and, progress and fulfil their expectations at a club that are going to embrace them.
So do I get the feeling that in your waters you're thinking probably not there beyond the end of this contract?
Probably not, no. And I think that it might not be down to him. It might be agents and things of the like. But it's been going on too long. It's going to harm his brand. It's going to harm, his chances of getting a big club somewhere else possibly. So he needs to get going.
There was a very good piece in the Daily Mail today by Ian Ladyman.
Yeah.
And he said that when United signed Paul Pogba, because obviously they'd had their fingers burnt before when he'd left on a free to go to Juventus, they made sure they got him tied down to a really, really long contract because they didn't want the same thing to happen again. So they got him to sign a 6-year deal. I think it was 5 years plus an option of another year. And guess what? In the summer, it'll be 6 years, and they're exactly the same situation again. He can leave for nothing. And I think the question has been put to Manchester United, well, you saw this coming. Why didn't you try and sell him, for instance, last summer? And according to Ian Ladyman, he was told that United were open to selling him, but there were no takers. Nobody came in to try and sign him because obviously the pandemic has affected the finances of all the big clubs in Europe. So I think it is an unfortunate situation that Manchester United find themselves in because the same thing is going to happen for the second time. But then from the player's point of view, well, he is honouring his contract. Some people would say he's running down his contract. I was going to say, you said honouring with inverted commas massively in the air there. I think Darmish prefers to say he's honouring his contract. A lot of Manchester United supporters would say he's running down his contract, and the transfer fee that United potentially could get for him, which you would have to say would be about £100 million, they're not going to get that. That money, in some sort of way, would end up being in his pocket from increased wages or commission to his agent. Again, there's nothing wrong with that. He's not doing anything wrong whatsoever. He's just sticking to the terms of his contract, and that's what.
As long as he's delivering on the pitch when he gets on the pitch. We're going to talk Man United a lot this evening because they're playing Villa in the Cup. Darmish, a word on Arsenal ins, outs?
Yeah, they are in the market to bring players in this transfer window. Like with a lot of clubs, it's easier to do their business in the summer transfer window, but midfielders and strikers seem to be the areas that are of priority at the Emirates. Lots of talk about Gini Wijnaldum from PSG, also Lyon's Bruno Guimaraes. Guimaraes could be a bit difficult because of the transfer fee that would entail in a January window. Striker-wise, Fiorentina's Dusan Vlahovic is one that's always been bandied around, not only with Arsenal but with a few other clubs. He's only got 18 months left on his contract, so potentially could there be some sort of movement there?
So if you get him, could that mean that Eddie Nketiah or Folarin Balogun could go?
Folarin Balogun, it will be on his way to Middlesbrough. That deal seems to be as good as done. It's effectively done. He's had COVID. He tested positive for COVID. So I think that's why there's a delay in the announcement of that deal. Nketiah, that hasn't changed. He's got 6 months left of his contract, hasn't signed the latest offer from Arsenal. Looks like he will leave Arsenal. It just depends when. OK, I promised Kaveh a minute to talk about developments at Hibs. You haven't got a minute, but you've got a bit.
Yes, Hibs have announced this evening that they've signed the young centre-back Rocky Bushiri from Norwich City. It's on loan, but they do have the option of signing him permanently in the summer. And also, Hibs have rejected a £2 million bid from Saudi Arabian club Al Faisali for their forward Martin Boyle.
Thank you very much indeed. There we are. Developments at Hibs, keeping across all the news from Scotland as well as around the world. On our transfer shows, don't forget, Good Morning Transfers tomorrow morning from 9 this evening. Darius Vassell is going to stay with me to watch Manchester United with 4 changes against Aston Villa with 2 changes in the FA Cup. Stay with us on Sky Sports News for all the latest in a couple of minutes.